My greedy daughter left me to die in a hospital bed, then forged my name and stole over $750,000 in property, savings, and my business. She thought I wouldn't survive. I did. I froze every account, exposed every lie. And now I'm coming for what's mine. She has no idea what's next. You never really expect betrayal to come from the same hands that once reached for yours in the dark, calling you mommy. But life has a cruel way of circling back, doesn't it? My name is Helen Carter. I'm 68 years old, a retired high school principal from Denver, Colorado. I was married once a long time ago. His name was James. He died in a car accident when our daughter, Jade, was just 7. I still remember her little pink shoes, swinging from the hospital chair as she sat waiting, too young to understand that her father would never walk through the door again. After James died, everything fell on me. Bills, bedtime stories, broken bones, broken hearts. It was all mine to manage. And I did. I raised Jade the best I could, gave her everything I had. Every teacher meeting, every scraped knee, every failed relationship, Mom was always there. I never remarried. Never even considered it. My world had narrowed down to a single orbit, Jade. She was bright, beautiful, charming, and exhausting. Dropped out of college twice. First time, she blamed the roommate. Second time, the professors. I paid off the student loans both times without question. Later, when she said she wanted to open an interior design firm, I dipped into my retirement savings. I told her I believed in her. I always had. The amount? $85,000. That's not pocket change when you're living on a pension and a small inheritance from a man who never got to see 60. But what's money when it comes to your child, right? That's what I used to think. Jade married Rick Dalton 4 years ago. Real estate agent, slick talker, all suits and sunglasses, but underneath? Hollow. You know the type. Smiles like a salesman, eyes like a calculator. I didn't trust him from day one. But Jade loved him. Or said she did. And who was I to question her happiness? They needed help. Often. Rent fell behind, her business was always almost profitable, and Rick's job was about to take off. I covered them. Quietly. No lectures. No conditions. Just love. Then, 6 months ago, everything changed. I collapsed in my kitchen one cold Thursday morning. Just dropped. I remember the smell of burnt toast. I was supposed to have brunch with Jade that day. She never showed up. The paramedics said I was lucky. Ellis, my next-door neighbor, heard the crash from the fall. He's 71, a retired Navy man. Still sharp as a tack, and probably the only person in the world who's ever treated me like I mattered without needing something from me. He called the ambulance, rode with me to the ER, and stayed through the night in a chair meant for people half his size. Surgery came fast. Gallbladder, internal bleeding, some infection. I don't remember the medical names. Just the pain. And the silence. Jade didn't visit. Neither did Rick. Not once. I stayed in the hospital for 13 days. Ellis came every single day. Brought crossword puzzles, terrible coffee, and better conversation. We joked about how he'd start charging me rent for emotional support. I laughed more in those days than I had in years. But in the quiet hours, lying awake with tubes in my arms and machines beeping around me, the thoughts would crawl in. Where was Jade? Why hadn't she called? Did she even know I was here? On the 14th day, I was discharged. Ellis offered to drive me home. It'll be good to get back, I told him, watching the city blur past the window. I just need to rest. But I never made it to my bed. My key didn't work. Not in the front door, not in the back. At first, I thought I was just tired, confused. But the locks had been changed. That much became clear. And then a stranger opened the door. A young couple. Confused. Defensive. The woman held a baby. You must be the old tenant, she said. We signed the lease last week. I stood there, bag in hand, cold Denver wind biting my cheeks. Excuse me. I managed. She pulled up a document. We got this place through Rick Dalton Properties, she said. Paperwork's legit. House title transfer came through. Helen Carter listed as deceased. I nearly dropped. I didn't say a word. I just stepped back, as if the house might explode. Ellis stepped in, told them to close the door, then turned to me. Let's go inside. My place, he said. You're not dealing with this alone. At his kitchen table, shaking hands wrapped around a cup of tea, I opened my banking app. My savings account, empty. My joint business account, the bookstore I ran part-time, transferred. My retirement fund drained. Everything gone. There was a new name attached to my small business, Jade Dalton. And Rick. Rick was listed as the managing agent on the house. I sat in that chair, numb. Ellis didn't say a word for a long time. Just sat with me. Then he asked, soft and careful, "Helen, did you sign anything before you got sick?" "No," I said. "Never." That's when the truth started to surface. While I was under anesthesia, fighting to live, my daughter and her husband had gone behind my back. Used forged signatures. Claimed I was dying. Moved to legally seize everything I had. They didn't just assume I wouldn't make it. They bet on it. Ellis put a gentle hand on mine. "You're not broken, Helen. You're pissed. And that means you're still in this." And just like that, the fog began to lift. The woman they buried wasn't gone. She was very much alive. And now it was time to remind them. I spent the first few days at Ellis's house in a state of quiet disbelief. Everything I had worked for, my home, my savings, even the bookstore I'd started after retirement, was gone. Not stolen by strangers, not lost in some storm or accident. Taken. Intentionally. By my only child and the man she married. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat with it. Let the weight of it settle into my bones. Betrayal doesn't explode. It seeps. Quiet. Slow. Deep. Like mold. Ellis, bless him, gave me space but not too much. He brought hot soup, folded laundry I couldn't bring myself to touch, and every evening, he sat with me on his back porch like it was just another normal week. "We'll fix this," he kept saying. "But first you've got to get stronger." And I did. Day by day. I started eating again. Reading. Sleeping. And thinking. The more I thought, the more the pieces began falling into place. I remembered the time Jade asked me to sign, just a backup copy, of the business paperwork for her design firm. It was months ago, but now I wondered, was that part of it? I remembered Rick asking about my passwords, just in case anything ever happened. And I, like a fool, shared them. You don't realize you're being stripped until the wind gets cold. I needed help. Real help. Not sympathy. Not well-meaning words. I needed someone who understood law, fraud, and how to fight fire with strategy. And I knew just the name. Lisa Freeman. She was a former student of mine years ago. I remembered her even as a teenager, sharp, fearless, didn't take nonsense from anyone. Now, she was a respected estate and fraud attorney, still based here in Denver. I called her office. She answered on the third ring. "Ms. Carter," she said, surprised. "Hi, Lisa. I think I need a lawyer." Within a day, I was in her office, everything laid out between us. Bank printouts, screenshots, letters, notes I'd kept from conversations with Jade over the years. Lisa's eyes grew harder the deeper we went. "This isn't petty theft," she said. "This is coordinated financial fraud. Signature forgery, unlawful property transfer, medical misrepresentation." "I know," I said. She looked at me, calm and serious. "Helen, we're going to take it all back. But we do it my way, quietly, carefully, thoroughly." Ellis drove me to every appointment. I gave Lisa access to everything. My accounts, my medical records, even the last legal will I'd filed. She sent a notice to the bank within 48 hours, freezing what little was left in the accounts. Then she submitted requests to flag suspicious activity under my Social Security number. And I filed a formal affidavit confirming I was alive and mentally competent. Meanwhile, Rick and Jade didn't seem to have a clue what was coming. They continued updating the bookstore website with their photos, pretending they were the founders. They hosted an online sale, using my stock and my customers. My bookstore. My shelves. My years of work. I watched every smug social media post, every fake smile Jade pasted onto her face. And I waited. Lisa said the first strike had to be financial. We pulled credit reports, dug up every transfer, every forged document. One by one, we started building the case. We even uncovered a hidden joint account in Rick's name that had received a sudden transfer of over $30,000 from my business line, marked as gift. "Bold," Lisa muttered. We knew they'd fight back, so Lisa got ahead. She prepared a lawsuit for recovery of stolen assets, restitution for damages, and personal injury based on emotional and financial abuse. That last part, emotional abuse, wasn't just about sympathy. It was about showing a pattern. But that wasn't all. Ellis, ever the Navy man, had been doing his own reconnaissance. One night, he showed me a blurry photo on his phone. Rick at a downtown bar, talking too loud and too drunk. "You're going to want to hear this," Ellis said and hit play. Rick's voice slurred and cocky. She was practically dead. We just cleaned house. Legal magic. That old bat didn't know what hit her. My hands shook. Not with fear. With focus. Lisa had the clip analyzed, time-stamped, and verified. It became Exhibit A. Meanwhile, we prepared the public notice, a formal legal document to reclaim my name on the property title, my business registration, and report the fraudulent transfers. The day we filed it, Lisa looked me in the eye and said, "It begins now." The next morning, I sent Jade a text. Just one line. "Let's talk." She replied immediately. "OMG, Mom, you're okay. Where are you? We thought." I didn't answer. I didn't need her panic. I needed her presence. We met at a local diner, the one she used to love as a teenager. She walked in with that fake, breathless charm she always wore when caught. "Mom, I can't believe it. I was going to call. We thought you were dead," I said calmly. "You were hoping I was." Her smile faded. Rick was waiting outside in the car. I saw him through the window, pacing. I slid a thin envelope across the table. Inside were copies of every legal form, the freeze notice, the preliminary court motion. "I'm giving you a chance," I said. "Return the keys. Transfer the title back. Drop the business claim. I walk away clean." She blinked. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm more serious than I've ever been." She left in a hurry. That night I got a call. Unknown number. "Rick, you're bluffing, old woman." I hung up without a word. Lisa smiled when I told her. Let them sweat. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Because Rick and Jade were about to learn that the woman they'd buried was never weak. She was just waiting. The days after that diner meeting passed like sharpened glass, silent, cold, and dangerous. Jade didn't return the keys. She didn't back down. I didn't expect her to. Rick wouldn't let her. They were too far in now. And desperation, I've learned, makes people reckless. Lisa filed the formal lawsuit. We served them at 6:45 a.m. on a Tuesday. The papers went straight to their rented mailbox because the house, my house, was now leased to another couple. I still can't believe the speed with which they tried to erase me. But paperwork doesn't lie. And Lisa made sure every line spoke loud and clear. I remember Ellis pouring us coffee that morning, his movement steady, calm. "They're going to come at you, Helen," he said. "Hard. But you're not alone anymore." He was right. Within 2 days, Jade responded with her own countersuit, claiming I was mentally unwell, easily manipulated, and not fit to manage finances. Her words. Probably Rick's pen. They accused Ellis of coercing me, said I was being influenced by an old neighbor with questionable motives. Lisa laughed. "They're really reaching now." But it was no joke. They hired a lawyer, a young, smooth-faced man named Calvin Moore. The kind who probably made his money off family disputes and empty threats. I met him for the first time at the pretrial hearing. He looked at me like I was furniture, soft, faded, disposable. And that's when I knew they didn't just want what I had. They never thought I'd fight for it. The courtroom smelled like lemon polish and nerves. I wore a charcoal blazer and the same pearl earrings I wore when I first became principal. They reminded me who I was, before the sacrifices, before the silence, before the woman called Mom turned into someone else's safety net. The judge was a sharp-eyed woman in her early 60s. No nonsense. I liked her immediately. Calvin stood up first, laying out his opening like it was a school play. "My clients," he said with that syrupy voice, "were simply trying to manage a crisis. Their mother was unwell, unaware, and incapable of making rational decisions. They stepped in out of love." Lisa didn't flinch. When it was her turn, she stood slowly, quietly, and said, "We won't argue emotion today, Your Honor. We will only present facts. Receipts, legal documents, bank records, and a recorded statement from Mr. Dalton himself." That got Calvin's attention. We opened with the financials. My savings account drained in 4 separate transfers, none authorized. My retirement fund closed and routed through a temporary business account in Jade's name. The business registration change. My name removed from property ownership, with a forged signature that didn't even match my legal handwriting on file. Then came the recording. Rick's voice, slurred and smug, played out loud in that silent room. She was practically dead. We just cleaned house. Legal magic. That old bat didn't know what hit her. I watched Calvin's jaw tighten. Jade sat beside him, pale. Rick wasn't in the room. Coward. Then came the testimony. Ellis was first. Calm. Precise. She was never unconscious longer than surgery allowed. She made rational choices from the day she woke up. I visited her every day. Never saw anything but clarity and pain. Emotional, yes. Confused? No. Then I spoke. I stood. No tears. Just truth. "I gave my daughter everything," I said. Not just money. My time. My life. Every spare moment. I was always there. And when I needed her, she left me. She didn't call. Didn't visit. She and her husband forged my name, stole my home, emptied my accounts, and hoped I wouldn't wake up. I turned to the judge. But I did wake up. And I remember. Jade's lawyer tried to shake my words, but every question he asked only made them sound worse. Did you ever give your daughter power of attorney? No. Did you ever authorize her to act on your behalf while you were hospitalized? No. Were you conscious after surgery? Yes. And I remember exactly who wasn't there. The courtroom was still when the judge ended the session. She didn't rule that day, but you could feel it. The shift. The tilt of power. They thought I'd break. Instead, I held the room. Later that evening, I got a message from Jade. Not a call. A text. We didn't mean to hurt you. Can we talk? I didn't respond. I was beyond talks. Lisa filed the second motion the next day, one that froze Rick's remaining accounts and opened a formal inquiry into his real estate dealings. Turns out, Rick had a history of shady property flips and clients claiming foul play. All it took was the right spotlight. The same week, I got a call from the bookstore's landlord. Mrs. Dalton hasn't paid rent in 2 months. If you're still involved, we'd like to talk. I smiled. Oh, I'm very involved. We negotiated a new lease under my name. Lisa handled the paperwork. And just like that, my bookstore was back. Small wins one by one. Quiet. Deliberate. Powerful. Rick tried to confront me once. Outside the courthouse, his eyes wild, voice low and angry. You ruined us, he hissed. I looked him dead in the eye and said, No, Rick. You did that all by yourself. He didn't follow me. He just stood there, breathing heavy, like a man watching a ship he thought he built sail away without him. The next hearing came fast. The judge's voice was calm but firm. All claims by Jade Dalton and Rick Dalton are hereby dismissed. The court finds sufficient evidence of forgery, fraudulent financial activity, and coordinated exploitation of a vulnerable individual. The court returns all rights of ownership to Helen Carter and orders restitution to be paid. I didn't cheer. I didn't cry. I just exhaled. After the verdict, Lisa smiled and said, They're done. But I wasn't. Because taking back what's yours is justice. But teaching others how to protect what's theirs? That's power. And I wasn't going to waste mine. After the ruling, the air around me changed. It wasn't just freedom, it was clarity. Like fog had finally lifted from a long, dark road. The house, the bookstore, the accounts, everything had been returned. But something deeper had shifted too. I wasn't the same woman who had collapsed on that kitchen floor 6 months ago. That Helen had loved quietly, given endlessly, and stayed silent when it hurt. This Helen? She'd learned that silence only protects others when you're the one bleeding. Jade and Rick were given 30 days to vacate everything. My property, my business, and my life. They didn't go quietly. The day I returned to the house, my house, there was a yellow envelope on the floor. No stamp. No return address. Inside was a single handwritten note. We did what we had to. You left us no choice. I folded the letter once and slid it into a file Lisa had started for me. She called it the No Contact Archive. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. They knew I was done, and this time there would be no coming back. It was early spring in Denver. The air still had bite, but the sun was starting to show up more often. I spent my mornings in the bookstore, dusting off shelves, rehiring the assistant who had quit during the chaos. People trickled back in, old customers who'd heard the rumors and now smiled when they saw me at the register. I didn't explain. I just rang them up and wished them a good day. My story wasn't for gossip. It was for purpose. Lisa had another idea. Start something, she said one afternoon over tea at my kitchen table. What happened to you? It happens to so many women. And they stay silent because they're scared. You're not scared anymore. I don't want revenge, I said. That's done. Not revenge, she replied. Education. So I did. We launched a free workshop series at the local library. Protecting Your Power, Financial Safety for Women Over 60. Our first meeting had 7 women, then 15, then 32. Widows, divorcees, mothers, each one with her own version of a story like mine. Some had lost thousands, others just their peace. I told them everything. How I signed that one form without thinking, how I gave too much trust without asking questions, how I stayed quiet too long. I showed them how to set up living trusts, how to revoke unauthorized power of attorney, how to check digital activity on their accounts. We made checklists and laminated guides. Ellis helped design the flyers. Lisa offered free legal checkups to every woman who came. It wasn't flashy, but it was real. Every week, I stood at the front of that little room with its flickering fluorescent lights, and I watched women take their power back one boundary at a time. And every time someone whispered, "I thought I was alone," I'd say, "So did I." But we're not anymore. Meanwhile, Rick's world kept shrinking. 3 weeks after the ruling, I got a call from the Financial Crimes Investigation Bureau. They had received an anonymous tip about falsified property sales, shady shell companies, and forged signatures. I didn't ask who sent the letter, but I knew whose handwriting was on the original source material. Mine. 2 months later, Rick was arrested. Real estate fraud. Multiple counts. The headlines ran small, just another white-collar man caught being greedy. But I read each one like a prayer. Jade tried to rebrand herself as a business coach, selling self-help kits online. That didn't last. Too many people knew the truth. Her business dissolved in under 6 months. Last I heard, she moved out of state. She never called, never apologized, just vanished into the silence she helped create. I didn't chase her. I didn't even miss her. Some grief doesn't come from death. It comes from realization that someone you loved never really saw you as a person, only as a lifeline. By the end of that summer, I sold the house. Too many memories. Too many ghosts. I bought a small, sun-washed cottage in Savannah, Georgia. Close to the ocean. Quiet. Peaceful. The kind of place where mornings smell like salt and citrus, and the past finally feels far enough away. Ellis came with me. He bought a boat. He said he'd always wanted to learn to sail, and what better time than when you're too old to drown pretty? We laugh more now. We take walks. We still bicker over crossword clues. And sometimes we just sit and watch the water move, saying nothing at all. On my 69th birthday, he gave me a small stone. Polished smooth. Etched with one word, rebirth. We walked to the beach at sunrise. The tide was low, the wind soft. I stood there, barefoot, feeling the earth beneath me in a way I hadn't in years. And I whispered, not to him, not to the sky, but to myself, "They left me to die. I came back to live." I tucked the stone into my coat pocket and turned back toward the house. That night, I opened a letter that had been sitting in my mail pile for a week. No stamp. Just a single sentence written in rushed handwriting. "I need you, Mom." "No, I'm sorry." No explanation. Just 6 words heavy with everything she thought would matter again. I didn't cry. I didn't reply. I placed it inside my journal, next to the headline someone clipped for me. Retired principal empowers women after surviving financial exploitation. Sometimes the best revenge isn't loud. It's living well. I host my workshops every Wednesday now in a sunny community room near the pier. We renamed the program. It's called the Ledger Circle. It's not just about money. It's about choice, voice, boundaries. Every time I stand before those women, I don't see victims. I see fire. As for me, I sleep through the night. I answer to no one. And the woman I used to be, the one who waited and gave and hoped in silence, she's finally been laid to rest. Not in anger, in peace. And that, I've learned, is the most powerful kind of ending there is.